Good morning and welcome to Conservatively Speaking on AM 830 WCRN and, of course, our sister station, AM 730 WACE in the western part of the Massachusetts. Now, listen, you can also live stream us on the TuneIn app. Just download it on your device if you don't already have it and punch in WCRN and take us anywhere. All right, starting at 6 o'clock this morning, we'll get going at 508-871-7000. Line will be open and available. That's 508-871-7000. What are we going to talk about today? Well, there's always a lot to talk about. But one thing we're going to focus on a little bit, has the left gone too far left, too radical, even for some of their own standard bearers, like Jerry Brown? What does he say about up-and-comers like Ortiz, right? Cortez Ortiz. What's going on with her? The things that she says. Do you think that when we had three chambers of government or Congress that, that was the stupidest thing she said? Well, surprisingly, not. So we'll talk about whether or not the left has just gone way too far to the left for their own good, for the sake of their own party. Do they need to reel it in a little bit and bring it back to center? Okay. The House is about to go back to the Democratic control. Of course, the Senate picked up some seats. So there is that checks and balances that, the founding fathers wanted in place. President Trump having a little trouble with that chief of staff. We'll talk about his latest pick there, as well as other things going on in the in Washington, as they say, in the belt, right? Also, we're looking at, of course, the loss of the firefighter in Worcester. We'll touch on that this week. A very sad event happened, but as it does, as they do, the Brotherhood of the Firemen, and that extends to police and all EMS and so forth, show their support. And it is a very dangerous job. And every once in a while, something happens to remind us just how dangerous those jobs are. We'll touch a little bit too, and last week we had a very great guest on, right? Dr. Larry Fedawar was on, and we started to talk a little bit about Saudi and the journalist who was tortured and murdered, and the United States role in it. And is there any doubt that the media's reaction to the torture and the murder of this journalist is more politically motivated to embarrass Trump than it is their genuine outrage over the journalist being tortured and murdered? Because if that's the case, again, look at the hypocrisy when it comes to journalists around the world. There are journalists currently being captured or captured in being tortured as we speak today. So there's a lot of hypocrisy on that. Everything else too. The lines are open and available. That stuff's kind of heavy, but let's try to lighten it up a little bit too in the next couple of weeks as we come into Christmas and we remember the season going on. Of course, we'll hear from Out with Joe at 6:30. All right, you'll find out some things going on, including a great scavenger hunt going on in Boston. So that's kind of fun. You can listen to Tina Marie Billings' Music Minute online at outwithjoe.com. Just click and listen. And at 7:30, Handling Change will come our way, and we'll talk with Dan and Chris Murray of the Murray Law Office. And Dan is going to get into title insurance a little bit today, because a lot of us, until you buy a house, you don't really understand what that is, and then you think it's optional. And quite frankly, it is optional, but it really isn't. It's one of those things, like most insurances. You don't like to write that check, but boy, you really do need it in place. So we'll hear from Dan Murray and Chris Murray from the Murray Law Office, and all that starts at 6 o'clock this morning here on AM 830 WCRN. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and I'll see you on the radio.